Stalker, giant stalker, dragon stalker, crypt stalker, demon stalker, rift stalker, grown stalker, crypt stalker, scourge stalker, wind runner. I'm a pony, lead skill hunter. A death dealer, a life stealer. That's just the cost of being awesome.
Welcome to episode 223 of the Hunting Party Podcast. I'm Dark Brew from thebrewhall.com and the Brew Hall on Twitter.
I'm Delirium from Throw of the Wild, the Warcraft Hunters Union, and at Delirium Hunts on Twitter.
I'm Bendak from Eyes of the Beast, Blizzard Watch, and Bendak WoW on Twitter.
And I'm Artemis Hal from the Warcraft Hunters Union and at Artemis Hal on Twitter.
Today is Sunday, August the 9th, 2015, and we are broadcasting live on twitch.tv. You can participate in the live chat room where our lovely moderator, Ali Saunders, is there to take your questions. And this is going to be a fun show. It's nice. We finally have more information than we could possibly squeeze into an hour, and we're not even gonna try. We'll go as long as we need to go. But I did wanted to make one announcement. August, this marks the 6th anniversary of the Hunting Party Podcast, and it's sort of been a quiet milestone. But yeah, episode 1 was released on August 12th, 2009, almost 6 years ago to the day. So there you go. We're still here.
We are prepared.
We are prepared. All right. I don't even know where to begin. Obviously, the big news this week is Gamescom and, of course, the World of Warcraft expansion announcement, Legion, which is going to be the next expansion for World of Warcraft. And, we got a lot of great information about it. It was exciting to get the expansion. So much to talk about. Hunter news as well involved in that. I don't know. Let's just get some reactions here. Where are you guys? You guys hyped? Are you aboard the hype train that's been going on here? Or?
Well, I was until this Q&A.
Yeah.
Now I'm worried they don't have much going on.
Yeah, that sums up the Q&A.
Yeah, that's exactly. For those of you who missed the Q&A, there's a detailed summary of exactly what was learned in the Q&A, which was absolutely zero. I mean, unless you want to talk about it, they did mention that they were going to continue with flying. We're going to let us fly in the next expansion, and then we'd be able to start working on that as soon as 7.0 drops.
Well, to be clear, what they said was they're going to introduce flying the same way they did in Warlords of Draenor, which so far they haven't. So I'm not convinced there's going to be flying in Legion either.
Actually, though, they didn't really have a model going in for Warlords about how they wanted to present flying. So I think now that they have something they want to work in, we'll get flying probably sooner than we did in WoD, which means not end of expansion.
Yeah, I'll believe it when I see it.
Yeah,
that's fair enough.
Well, it seemed like the model that they initially implemented was not to allow flying at all in Warlords of Draenor.
We'll think about it later. Model.
And that they dropped it in at the end, although I like the way that they did it with that whole Pathfinder achievement and making you get out there and play the game before you can fly. So I think it's a pretty good model that they've got going, actually.
Yeah, I enjoyed doing those quests and finishing everything, exploring everything, getting the reputations. And then I did it, I got all my achievements, and I still can't fly.
No. Although I think, Bendit, did you mention that the PTR, what's on the PTR, is a release candidate? So
Yeah, so maybe this week, or the week after.
Yeah, so I don't think it's going to be too much longer then before we can actually get to fly in Draenor. But what are some other general things we know about the expansion? There's no release date, of course, other than they said, next year? So I think everyone's assuming that it'll kind of line up with the Warcraft movie, which is coming out in June of 2016.
No. I think it'll be sooner.
Yeah.
I think it has to be sooner.
They don't want Siege, or what tier is this? Not Siege. Hellfire lasting a year, so.
We can call it Siege 2.0.
Well, that's what they will call it, right? If it lasts, it won't last a year, I don't think. But even if the expansion were to say drop in May, that's still a pretty long final tier for the expansion. It won't be as long as Siege of Orgrimmar, but it will certainly feel like it by the time is all is said and done. I think you reach a point where no matter how long it is, it doesn't matter. A month here, a month there. It's just going to be too much. How far along are you? Artemis, you've cleared it in Mythic or almost?
Currently my guild is sitting at 11 out of 13 mythic, so no, it's a long tier.
Yeah. So I mean, you're almost done. I know Bendek, you've already cleared heroic, and so I mean, a lot of guilds are kind of reaching that point where they're almost done with it. I mean, and we're only in the beginning of August. I mean, I don't think it's everything's. I mean, LFR still has a wing or two left to be released, but it's August, and we feel like this thing is really starting to wrap up. So the sooner they get this to us, the better. But there was talk of beta possibly starting before the end of this year. So, what are your thoughts on that?
I think we'll have alpha before BlizzCon, and I think we're gonna see beta at BlizzCon, or maybe a little bit later. But I wouldn't be surprised if they're like, BlizzCon attendees, here's your free beta. It's in your goodie bags. Like they could easily do something like that. Just something pretty cool to hype it up more.
Yeah. Well, I hope they do something
if they
like
want
that.
to.
That would be nice. Because it's still not clear whether or not we'll qualify for, like, here at the podcast for friends and family. Well, we're hoping. We certainly have some friends there now.
I know. One friend.
One friend. Just, just hack the database, flag our accounts. That's all.
No big deal. We're not asking for much. We just want to play the game too.
Exactly. So, well, should we talk about so let's talk about a little bit about what's coming. I mean, one of the things they mentioned was they've got the new continents, the Broken Isles, 6 zones for us to level in. The map almost looks like Draenor. I mean, the
Looks
shape
like
of it.
I was thinking it looked like Pandaria too, yeah.
Pandaria.
But I guess
mean,
they're all about the same.
they are. They're very similar. They're very almost circular. But have they mentioned officially where it's going to be located? I mean, do we know yet?
No, I saw them. They asked that in one of the interviews, and they were just kind of like, we haven't revealed that yet. But it's somewhere on the planet.
Yeah, I mean, one of the maps I saw kind of speculated it might be between, what is it, not Kalimdor, but Eastern Kingdoms and Northrend, somewhere in between there. But that would just, I don't know. I mean, if it almost feels like it should have like a southern feel to it, but I don't know. But it'll be somewhere, right? We'll be able
Southern
to
Sea
get
expansion confirmed. Pirates? Right. What? No, I think someone speculated that it was going to be near the Maelstrom at some location. So that was kind of an interesting thought.
Yeah. They're introducing the Demon Hunter class, which that was kind of, I don't know if it was leaked. A lot of people, people have been asking for that for a long time, but initially it was speculated it was going to be a ranged class using guns, bows, and crossbows, and that's turning out to not be the case at all. Thank God, right?
Hunter weapons are still
Yeah.
hunter weapons.
Yeah.
Except for survival weapons.
Well, yeah, except for survival. We'll talk about that in a minute. So it's an elven class, so just blood elves and night elves can be demon hunters, which is kind of interesting. So
Yeah, I don't know if any of you are up on the lore. Could blood elves, is that just a random thing they're throwing in to make the, factions balanced, or are there blood elf demon hunters in the game?
I have no idea.
Yes,
I-
there
I'm
are.
not sure.
Are there?
Oh,
There's
okay.
blood
Yeah,
elves
Allie?
and night elves. There's actually a human as well. And
Oh.
someone said there's one undead, but they're only going to give us blood elves and night elves to start off with.
I could see humans and undead demon hunters. I think that'd be kind of cool.
Yeah, undead
But,
would be kind of neat. Yeah.
At the same time, I'm glad they're sticking with elves for now.
And then, so what else? There'll be the typical things: new dungeons, new raids. That's none of that is unexpected. New world bosses, and of course, they're going to raise the level cap 10 levels this time again. So I guess they're done with those 5-level increments too. So we'll be level 110 before too long.
And if anything's got me pumped, it's 10 more levels.
But was WoD leveling really that bad? It was actually pretty fun.
No, it was great. It's just
they
really
did leveling
boring
well.
to think about. I don't
Yeah.
get why would you list that as a benefit of the expansion?
Because bigger number means more power, right? I'm
does.
110 now. Ugh. I don't know.
Yeah, I guess.
Well, yeah, I mean, it's those level increases and then the gear that we get with it. That's what allows us to go back to those Mists of Pandaria dungeon raids and stuff and solo those easily without having to be like an expert, soloist.
Did
to
they
do
talk
that.
about, are we getting perks again, or do we know what if we're
There's-
getting anything?
we don't even know if we're getting level 110 talents. So as far as I'm concerned, like, don't think about perks, don't think about talents. Like, we'll worry about that later on when they announce more stuff about.
Well, the
everything.
talents should be all different. Because
Our-
they're taking away the PvP talents, right?
Oh yeah, and I think with how they're doing survival, we're gonna have a lot of talent overhaul.
Yeah, so they said they didn't mention that there would definitely be, like, say, another tier of talents, and there's a good chance that, you know, they'll just leave it as it is, and obviously they're going to have to spend time changing some of those existing talents anyway. So we may not see anything new in the way of perks or talents. It's hard to say. Well, survival is going to get everything new, presumably. So
At least a lot, yeah.
Yeah, they'll have to redesign a lot of the talents for survival too, or like give
Yeah.
survival versions of the talents,
yeah.
like
Well, what-
barrage and stuff like that.
Yeah, well, why don't we
Well-
talk about that just so people, just in case anyone's sort of been living under a rock. Survival is going to be a melee spec for hunters. So big change for anyone who wanted a melee hunter. You're getting it. For those who didn't want a melee hunter, well, you're still getting
Deal
it.
with it.
And that's melee with pet, to be clear, right?
Yes, that's what they said. So yeah, so the role changes were beast mastery is pretty much going to stay the same, right? It's going to be ranged and used as a pet, but marksmanship is going to be ranged and be petless. So they're not going to be allowed to use a pet, and then survival is melee and will use a pet. So
Yeah.
two kind of big changes. I mean, marksmanship is it's I don't know, it's a big change, and it's not. It just makes something that's a choice no longer be a choice. Although I think most people have been doing marksmanship with Lone Wolf this expansion, so it's not
Most people
that
who are traders, maybe.
It's really strong right now. I don't know. It's very good in this right tier at least. I know last tier we didn't even touch marksman, so I mean focusing shot was still really good, but for the most part, yeah, once you get your 4-set stuff, it's Lone Wolf, bye pet, bye.
Yeah, I wonder if they'll leave Lone Wolf like for survival and give marksmanship a different option from that talent. You know, Beastmaster's adaptation, survival's Lone Wolf, and what would marksmanship be now?
I don't know, or I wonder if they'll just take Lone Wolf out. I mean, if they want to keep the 3 specs kind of distinct, and if marksmanship, you know, playing without a pet is kind of how they want to define that specialization, I would imagine that Lone Wolf would just be removed entirely. I would
Probably.
think.
Yeah.
I almost wonder if adaptation shouldn't be just made baseline for Beast Mastery as well, and not be made a talent, since it's, you know, there's been no other choice at that level, right? For Beast Mastery. I mean, the other
Yeah, I think
talent-
it'll be gone, and we'll see pet spec matter again. It's too much.
But it's I don't know, kind of it makes sense to me for Beastmastery to have that super pet, you know.
Yeah,
Or
but now that
melee
it's
pet.
the only hunter spec, the only traditional hunter spec, it doesn't need that much differentiation. Nah,
I think they
I
should
could see
get
either
rid of
way.
multiple pet summons, maybe like perma.
What?
I think that would be kind
Perma
of cool.
Stampede.
Yeah,
I want dual pets for BM. That'd be awesome.
Yeah, dual pets would be a lot of fun. That would be kind of neat.
They're going to have to think of a new set bonus then. We've had an extra pet for the last several
Kinda.
years.
well, based on how they're describing marksman and BM, I think Lone Wolf in adaptation will be baseline, so we might see a new level 100 talent.
Yeah, I agree with that. I think adaptation will be, you know, baked into Beast Mastery, and obviously Lone Wolf will be kind of what defines marksmanship. So yeah, that would leave a hole there. So they would have to get a new talent there. And then of course you've also got the exotic munitions, which everyone's sort of forgotten about, and that definitely needs some love, or else it'll continue to be unused like it is now. So that really only leaves focusing shot as the one sort of remaining talent that would be somewhat viable.
Yeah, I think they're probably just going to redo everything for hunter talents just because they have to. So like focusing shot, like how's that going to work for survival? It's not like they're going to have like a melee class that's going to have a casted generator, you know.
And it'll be like a
Yeah.
little swing where you wind up and boom, there's your focus back.
Yeah, I think that'd be awesome, actually. I'd love that. I hope it stays pretty similar in rotation. to how we're doing it now.
Yeah, I mean melee. I mean or survival. Yeah, survival becoming melee is really going to change that a lot. I mean that's a pretty big. I mean it's it sounds exciting on the one hand. It sort of fits this mold of Rexar and who was the other one? The boss in Blackrock Foundry who was also the melee
Beast
hunter.
Lord, yeah.
Yeah, yeah, that's the one. Beast Lord Darmak.
He is exactly a survival hunter. He's got like a spear and pets.
Mhm.
And he can ride his pets too. There's a hunter feature.
Some new level 100 talent, rideable pets. But you can only tame things with saddles.
It's not a pet. That's just going to be a perk. Better not to be a talent. I'll be pissed. I can ride Rhino Gosling around. Hold on.
But thinking about melee, I mean, melee is sort of a different. I really haven't spent much time playing the melee classes, and I much prefer ranged over melee. So I think it's going to be not just it's going to be more than just doing DPS while standing next to the boss. I think there's a lot more to being a melee hunter now than what players might be ready for.
Well, Raptor Strike, Mongoose Bite. What else do you
Wing
need today?
Clip.
Yeah, Wing Clip was the other melee one, right? And
Counterattack?
Counterattack. That was another one that we had.
Rend? Remember that talent?
I don't remember Rend. But I believe you're right.
That garbage bleed that we
It was a
used to have.
bleed, right? It was like a prick, a little pin prick.
That was Lacerate.
Oh, Lacerate. Yeah, my bad.
It was like bleeds for 80 damage over 20 seconds. It's like, wow, it's a great talent.
Mm-hmm. And what else? We said that aspect of the monkey was another one, another aspect that we had that did the dodge, and
Actually kind of makes sense for survival, I guess.
it does.
So
Yeah.
it looks like I don't know if they're only going to be able to use two-handed weapons or what, or if they can dual wield. I'm guessing it's two-handed only just because of the artifact.
I mean, but surely they wouldn't take away our ability to dual wield. We've already got it, even if one-hander is preferred.
Rex are dual-wields, right? I mean,
I think
sure,
he does.
the
Yeah.
artifact.
But you,
yeah,
you
but I mean,
never have occasion to dual wield, though, because you're going to use your artifact.
Right, so
Right.
that's fine,
Right.
but don't take away the ability to.
Yeah, exactly. Because in the future, I mean, yeah, I want to dual-wield axes and chop some faces down. I mean, that's not a big deal.
They might even have abilities that are spear only, or if it's a new type, or two-hander only.
Probably.
But that's fine, just don't take away the ability.
But I think they'll have to do things like Raptor Strike, and even if the behavior of those abilities is a little different or redesigned, I mean, I think reusing those names would be important just to keep some familiarity with the spec,
Yeah, it's interesting to kind of try to imagine. It seems like they keep hammering home this point of what's the fantasy of this spec, and the fantasy of survival has to do with surviving, right? So I'm not sure what they're trying to do, or like what the going away from magic abilities. I think that's clear. There's no
I don't
reason
know.
to have magic in survival, but I can't imagine what they're trying to accomplish.
I think maybe we won't see Black Arrow, but we'll still have poisons. We'll still have traps, which, consists of dots. We'll have bleeds. I think there's a lot of stuff that can replace the magic aspect of it and make it
Yeah.
more like a survival-y theme. So I'm pretty excited to see what they'll do.
Yeah, it's going to be interesting. And then you wonder about another ability like disengage, for example. Will we kind of get like a reverse disengage, something that leaps us forward, or is having disengage be good if you want to try and maybe get some distance between you and whatever it is you're fighting? But although I don't know how often you'd want to do that. I mean, with melee, the whole idea is to be up in something's face. So disengage seems kind of not as useful for a melee spec. So they
At the
might
same
need to-
time, sorry. I was going to say, like, monks can roll away from combat, right? I mean, they need to get the hell
Yeah.
out of dodge sometimes.
Yeah, I believe so.
So,
I think my ideal If I were allowed to make a melee survival god spec, we'd have some extra range because we're using a spear, right? So we want to stay out of range of swords or daggers and be able to just poke in there. But what I really, really want to see is a kind of grappling hook feature. So instead of like a forwards disengage, we can throw our spear on a chain and have it pull us to the target. And then we can
That's a really
disengage
cool
back
idea.
away.
It is a cool idea. I like that.
Yeah,
Gives them like a
especially
bleed
when
too.
when you hit the target, it like immobilizes them for a second when you get pulled in.
Hmm.
Which is just like the Warriors. What do they do where it stuns you and they jump to you or something like that? Heroic Leap, is that
Heroic
it?
Leap, I think, is what that one's called.
But it would just be cooler because we'd have a chain and be flying around the place.
Yeah, or
But
even just some kind of spear throwing ability as like an opener or just like a basic ranged attack, you know?
What about utilizing camouflage as stealth, like actual stealth, not the really garbage stealth that we have as a glyph? But I could seriously see survival actually using that and having maybe even openers based around that. Like I'm camouflaging up behind something, and I'm just going to use that spear throw and jump in. And what if pets had kill command too?
Yeah, I think that'd be cool to add something to the pet arsenal for survival. Since you're up there with them, there's got to be some kind of symbiote.
I think it'd be cool to have some kind of like coordinated attack with your pet, like you attack at the same time and do extra damage or something.
Well, that could be like Raptor Strike. They could easily change how some of these melee abilities work. It could be pretty cool.
Yeah. Overall, I'm excited for Survival Melee. Even if I'm not going to play it that often, it's neat. It'll be fun.
And it opens up like abilities for us to maybe even have cooldowns for once, which we've been screaming for since the beginning of WoD, and execute, which we've been screaming for since the beginning of WoD. There's a lot they can do.
So I wonder what they'll do with focus. I mean, we kind of talked about this amongst ourselves earlier in the week, but we have focus, and it's got specific regen rate, works well for as a ranged. I wonder if they'll have to make changes to how that works for the melee abilities now, or if it'll be fine as is. I mean, we talked about rogues having energy, and I mean, they start off like hunters where we have 100 focus, and then we buff it up with some other talents and things. But rogues have like 100 energy, but I think they have a much faster regen rate than hunters do for focus. No,
They do.
Yeah.
And that's what makes them different from ferals too. And ferals like got a slower regen rate, but they dump like once they hit a certain amount of energy. Rogues are just constantly slashing and dashing, and they have regen abilities as well, but they're passive.
Yeah, so I really want to see us keep something like Cobra Shot for melee. Whatever they, doesn't need to be Cobra Shot, obviously, but something like it.
but something like that, right. And then I wonder what we'll do for like our AoE. I mean, we talked about Barrage and Glaive Toss would be talents that wouldn't work very well for survival. Will we get something similar to like a Fan of Knives or something? So maybe
Just a crazy explosive trap.
All right. Yeah. Well, we do have we'll have Explosive Trap. So, and maybe that'll do more damage or tick longer or something. I mean, it's possible that they could also make traps like that be survival only now. And take them away from some of the other specs. Maybe not all the traps, but a few like that.
Yeah, it's hard to figure out what they'll do with traps since they're so inconsistent. I don't know. It's hard to imagine them being a major part of the gameplay. Since like the idea of traps is you set it up beforehand and then you go hide and wait for somebody to walk over it. At least the fantasy of traps, I guess, is like that.
Right.
So
I mean, will they
I'm
still
not
have
sure what they'll do at all.
I mean, I guess they could still have the trap launcher, I suppose. Maybe,
Yeah, right now you can't use it without a ranged weapon, but they
Okay.
can certainly change that.
All right. So maybe maybe they can't. I don't know. So yeah, certainly a lot of questions here that will need to get answered, and we'll probably have to either they'll have to do some sort of announcement of changes or wait until the alpha or the beta and when they start releasing some patch notes to understand what kind of changes are coming. But survival is the big one, and then there's just learning how to play as a melee, right? Especially with raiding and the boss fights and things like that, learning to, be up against the boss, being part of interrupt rotations. It might mean we don't have to do a lot of those special jobs as survival now that we're stuck doing as a hunter. That might be a good thing. But all that running around and chasing after the boss and trying to maintain your DPS while the tank is dragging them all over the place.
But we'll have the chain ability thing. We'll just keep up with the boss that
Here's
way.
hoping.
Yeah, that's a pretty cool idea, man. I can easily see them using traps in a rotation, though, and easily bring back some of the old ones, like Immolation Trap, just for the single target dot. I know they have that mix in with the Explosive Trap, but Snake Trap could easily make a comeback, and they can easily add in a Bear Trap.
Yeah, it might be time to actually give us the bear trap once and for all.
Finally, just do it, Blizzard.
I wonder what this. Maybe it'll summon a bear that the opponent has to wrestle with.
Yeah, they have to, like, arm wrestle a bear or something. Not even full-on wrestle, just arm wrestle it.
So I just feel like out of a circus.
Illidan stops fighting everybody else, and they just sit
Right.
down to arm wrestle.
Calls
It'll
forth
take you...
a dark moon bear that your opponent has to wrestle with.
It'll take you into like this, like the pet battle screen basically, but you're versing the bear. You need to like spam like a certain key on your keyboard, but the bear is like 50 times faster than you, so Godspeed. And if you lose, man, that's a lot of damage.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so it'll be
That's where we
interesting.
could. That's
Oh,
where
go
we
ahead.
could store our druid tanks. Set down a bear trap, and then out pops our druid.
It's like a Pokeball.
And then we don't know what changes are going to come from marksmanship, other than we know it's going to be, we presume to have, well, they're not going to be using a pet, so they'll have Lone Wolf built in. Its artifact weapon is a bow, so I guess they're really going for the ranger motif. But
I hope they change the name. Just call it a ranger.
right? I mean, I think that would make more sense at this point. I mean, since they're clearly basing it off of Sylvanas and Illyria and the Windrunners and that sort of the idea of moving around quickly, sort of being somewhat agile and deadly accurate with your shots. But if you don't like using a bow, you can transmog it into anything you want, which is, I guess, that's a good thing.
For those dwarves out there.
Mm-hmm. And then we'll have to see what kind of ability changes they do further from marksmanship, or unless they leave, or I guess they could just leave it as it is too. It's hard to know.
Yeah, the artifacts are what has me really interested. I can't imagine they'll go to a choice of powers, but that's what it kind of seemed like from the thing on Thursday, whatever that was, video presentation. So it looked like you got to kind of choose what direction you leveled your weapon up, which I'm sure will just very quickly turn into a cookie cutter kind of thing. But in the beta, at least, it'll be really fun to try everything and see what's the best options.
If I've recalled correctly, though, you'll be able to unlock every feature. So it'll just be a matter of what do you want to get first, basically, and then the rest later. This way, yeah, you don't have that cookie cutter crap.
It's just everybody is cookie. All the abilities are cookie cutter.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It'll all be the same.
Yeah, I'm curious to see what they'll bring for us too, like perks and new abilities, and I kind of want my own res. That'd be cool. Like, if Death Knight's got one. I want to Ankh. My pet will just battle res me.
Oh, that'd be sweet. Like the Quillins did at first, where you could cast it as you were dying.
It was a good bug.
Yeah, that was great. Why did they take that out? It didn't seem OP to me.
Is the hunter dead? Nope, I'm up.
Now, Bendik, you put out a poll earlier a few days ago asking what hunter spec people would want to play in Legion. So have you looked at the results for that? What do the results look like so far for that? What are people saying?
Yeah, it's just like an informal poll on Twitter, and there's about 280 votes, and half the people said they're going to play Beast Mastery. 25% said marksmanship, and 15% said survival, and 9% said they're re-rolling Demon Hunter.
So very low numbers so far for survival with the melee, which is not too surprising, and I suppose it's not unsurprising that Beast Mastery, it's always been a very popular spec, and it's probably going to change the least, I suppose. So it's not, I suppose, not very surprising that people would want to gravitate towards that.
Yeah, it's the only like traditional hunter spec left, right?
Mm-hmm.
So.
Yeah, I mean, it is in terms of World of Warcraft, I suppose. But
yeah,
I mean,
that's what I mean. Yeah. So I think a lot of people will cling to it at least for a bit.
Yeah, I really hope they make the rotation more interesting. I'm just not excited about playing BM forever.
Well, you can always play survival. Still get your pet.
Yeah, I guess so.
You can reroll like me.
Yeah, don't be gross.
no, you're not gonna be the demon hunter, are you? There's gonna be so many. That's the other thing too. It's like we were talking about. Sometimes you have these fights that are either melee unfriendly, or at least some of my raid groups. We're horribly short on melee. Too many range. So I was worried about maybe being required to do survival just because they want more melee for a particular fight. But with demon hunters coming in there, that's just not going to be an issue at all, is it?
No.
It'll be melee will be covered this expansion. Don't worry. Without survival.
Yeah, I
think
thought we all
it's-
wanted less melee.
Yeah, I don't know. I don't know for Mythic. I understand their flex system. I'm like, oh yeah, they'll be fine. You can fit 30 people in a raid, but Mythic you can't do that. And there's currently 9 melee ability classes basically. 3 hybrids, 6 pure melee. Is that correct? And then like 3 actual pure range.
Yeah,
I'm
it
not
sounds
sure on
about
the numbers, but I just know that, yeah, oftentimes you're like, oh, we got too many melee. And if there's gonna be more, it's almost like, it seems like melee too. Usually their job is just like interrupting. Like I know that's simplifying it, but usually it seems like that's their thing. And I wonder if there's gonna be like a higher percentage of melee now if the encounter designers need to, get more things for them to do.
Yeah, I don't know how much they think about that. They really take that into consideration. Sometimes I feel like, and I think they've even said they just sort of design fights based on what they think is cool or interesting, or what they feel that particular boss would do from a sort of even a lore perspective. That they don't necessarily think melee versus ranged on some of these fights, but
Or just when they design a mechanic, they decide who it's going to target and stuff like that. That's what I mean. It's usually based off the role of the classes.
I think it's difficult to make a fight where, you're never going to want to heavily favor range and over melee because anything in melee can do, range can probably do maybe better. Except the short interrupts.
Right. Well, the short interrupts, and that's the one thing I can think that I assume survival will be like the other melee classes and have those short interrupts. So that's where I think it would most be utilized. Would be it need to be part of an important interrupt rotation where it'd really come into play. But we were talking about artifact weapons a little bit earlier. Why don't we get into that a little bit? Because I kind of like this idea. I guess it's sort of they haven't really stated what kind of weapon it's going to be, whether it's going to be legendary or its own thing or epic. But it sounds like this is going to be replacing a legendary quest line this time around.
I think it's really neat. Like it seems like pretty ambitious. They have a different like quest for each spec in the game. So there's like 36 little mini class quests to get your artifact weapon.
Yeah.
And I don't know, it sounds really cool to me. Like there's not going to be any traditional weapon drops in the whole expansion either. It's just like you're still going to get drops from bosses for your weapon, but it's like augments for your weapon. Like, oh, you get this relic from a boss and you slot it into your weapon, and now your weapon does more damage. So you do that instead of getting an entire new weapon.
Yeah. So, which is kind of like getting a new weapon. I mean, it's sort of like the angst of getting a better weapon, if you will. It will still be there, right? You're still gonna be doing those bonus rolls and having your fingers crossed that you get the item. to make your weapon powerful, but you won't be getting an actual new weapon itself.
Yeah, it makes me wonder too if like the professions will be able to craft those relics too. So you have alternate means of getting upgrades. You know, if you're really unlucky.
Yeah, that I don't know, that would be kind of nice. Obviously, there'll probably be different types of relics with different levels of power depending on, you know. So, you know, mythic raids would probably drop the more powerful ones, and heroic and normal and so forth, and probably treat it like they do weapons now, only with those relics.
I hope it's not too RNG based.
Oh, with like stats and things like that, with the relics. Yeah, I agree.
Yeah.
You know, because that's
Like-
the only problem with that. You never feel like you're done, right? There's always something out. Either, you know, until you get the absolute best one, you're always kind of striving to get something better.
That's not a bad thing either. It gives you something to do, maintains your interest in the game. But at the same time, if they make it too RNG, it's going to just push people off.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe give like a guaranteed drop on final bosses. Of like these relics, of course.
Yeah, that would be one way to do it. I mean, you know, probably just, you know, they could probably just treat it like they do weapons now, I guess, and
Yeah,
just
there seems
have
like there's looks like there's two alternate ways of, or no, probably concurrent ways of increasing it. There's like the relic drops, and then there's artifact power, which is like points that you earn for doing things. I'm guessing just like a daily dungeon and stuff would give you X artifact points.
Mhm.
You spend those points into the unlocking the quote unquote talents for your weapon. So that increases power, and then you have the actual relics, which are more like traditional drops.
Right. And I mean, they mentioned there's going to be almost like mini talent trees for these weapons as well. So it's not even just a matter of getting a relic and slapping it in there. They're going to be things you unlock and choose, correct?
Yeah, but I mean, it sounded like you eventually can unlock everything. So
Mhm.
it's just like picking an order of the unlock.
So just sort of like the perks were then. And I guess, yeah, Artemis, you had mentioned that we'd probably get everything at some point.
Yeah, I
I'm
think
not
they
sure if you
mentioned that.
can like respec it or what's going to happen.
We'll see. I mean, they also still don't even have like a alternate plan if you have the spec swap, so
Mm-hmm.
things are still in the works. We'll see what happens.
Yeah, that's a big question. If you're, say you have like your survival and Beastmastery
Yeah.
specs, you upgrade your Beastmastery gun with one of those relics, like can you transfer that upgrade to your survival spear? Or are you just like have to start from like scratch in terms of relics? They said there's going to be a catch up, but is that the artifact points or is that actually the drops too? Like who knows?
I don't know. I thought they said they wouldn't have a catch up for alts.
No, alts they won't have a catch up, but I'm talking about your secondary spec.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I
they
thought
said they'd have to
said
catch up for that.
specs, they wanted to catch up, yeah. Alts, no. Which will make it fun for people doing split clears.
I don't know, like depending how like big this catch up mechanic is, it might be like your initial choice might be pretty significant. Like
Mm-hmm.
it's like you choose Beastmaster, it's like, well, hopefully you like it because you know you don't want to switch to marksmanship because your marksmanship bow is nowhere near as good as your Beastmastery gun.
It's just gonna be more harder in terms of going from like BM to survival, like you said, without having like another physical weapon. Because you know, with BM and marksman, you just stat swap, whatever.
Mhm.
That's probably their solution. Cool, call it good. Eventually, you can get your bow if you want, but for now, that's what you do. But like for BM and survival, I have to get a spear and a ranged weapon.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm fine with that. I just want the relics to swap over.
Yeah,
I don't mind going through the quest 3 times, because I definitely want to, be ready to play all 3 specs, as any pure DPS class should be prepared to. And as long as I can, switch out relics, that'll be fine. But if, the relics are destroyed like gems, I think somebody was mentioning that in the chat earlier. If they're destroyed every time you put in a new one, then that's going to suck.
Just make it work like talents. Just when you spec swap, you have these amount of runes, I guess.
Oh, that would be great, and then you wouldn't have bag space too.
Yeah.
Talents, I love it. You've unlocked this thing, and now you can
Right.
use it.
Yeah, I definitely want to do all 3 quests too, but I think for me, survival is just gonna be more of like a curiosity. I don't think I'm actually gonna use it as a main spec. It's kind of just like, oh, that's neat. I just don't see myself playing a melee class.
Yeah, I don't either. I mean, this is kind of a little bit of a risk for them, and I don't know if there's any going back either once they make this change. But it may very well be the least utilized, least played hunter spec. I don't know what it'll take for it to gain some traction and actually appeal to a lot of hunters over the other 2 specs.
Well, you know what'll do the trick is when they add in this grappling and spear thing, pulls you around, then everybody's gonna swap.
Yeah, if it's got some like annoying features that other classes hate, especially for like PvP, yeah, then it might be the death grips and the life pulls and those types of things. So if we're loaded with lots of abilities like that, well then yeah, we'll just play it all the time.
And that's even, you see a lot of PvPers talking about Demon Hunter already because it's got the charge and a disengage backflip thing that it does that's kind of like disengage. It's just a very agile spec or movement heavy spec, so it should be good in PvP.
And the one thing we don't know about either that I know Bendik, you asked right away with survival is what happens when 7.0 hits or the pre-patch or they introduce these talent changes, and what are we going to do for a weapon, and I don't think there's been any discussion or answer on that, but that's a valid concern. I mean, since they're going to be melee and require a melee weapon, where is that going to come from when the new patch hits?
Yeah, not just that, but I mean lower level hunters too, I guess. But it's just only gonna be an awkward period for like a couple months before everything's kind of it's not a huge issue, I guess. I'm sure they have some kind of solution in mind, because it'd just be awkward if like say your average item level's like 715 and then the patch drops, you want to play survival, but your best melee weapon is like a 650.
Right.
Kind of like.
Well, that's the other thing too for like new hunters. I wonder what they're going to do now. I mean, are you just going to be ranged for the first 10 levels and then have the option to choose survival and go melee? Or are they going to give you sort of an introduction to melee?
That's how
in the
shamans
beginning
work.
too.
All you have is this ranged. I don't know what the spell is called. I can't remember, but
Lightning
you
bolt?
start as just ranged.
Yeah, you get lightning bolt, but you also get not storm strike, the really crappy melee one, whatever. But yeah, you get a combination of kind of both, like 2 abilities.
Yeah, I'm sure Beastmastery would be the base for the first 10 levels.
Mm-hmm.
Like, just that idea. Another thing with marksmanship too, now that it's Lone Wolf isn't a talent, but it's baked in, they're gonna have to give marksmanship probably some new tools, just to make up for not having a pet.
Yeah, it's going to be... I mean, it's already like Lone Wolf, except for a few random battlegrounds people run it in, because it's kind of a turrety. But it's already pretty useless in PvP. So I have no idea how they'll make it viable. Or maybe they're just going to give up on it.
Yeah, because hunters are kind of built around having your own little tank, personal tank.
Mm-hmm.
The marksmanship's going to need something, like maybe something else to help keep targets at range or something. I don't know.
Yeah, that's a good question. I mean, it's it will impact leveling, certainly, won't it? I mean, when you once you hit level 10, the decisions you make will be fairly significant.
Well,
and you won't necessarily have a lot of you don't have very many abilities when you hit level 10. You have a few. You usually get your signature abilities and so forth, but
as soon as you get aim shot, I don't know if any of you have leveled as marksmanship lately, but you one-shot everything up till level 70 or 80 at least. Really, all the way through Northrend, you one-shot everything. So it's not like you use your pet as marksman.
It's true.
So, well, one of the other features that they mentioned were these class order halls. So this sounds kind of interesting. We don't have a lot of details on that, other than they said it basically wasn't necessary. Calling it Garrisons 2.0 isn't 100% accurate because they said it'd be very different from Garrisons.
Yay!
But they sounds like these are class specific areas, if you will, and they're going to be it's going to be a multi user space that we'll be able to go and visit throughout the expansion. So I think it's kind of a neat idea.
Yeah, I think it's great for hunters, because who would you rather hang out with than other hunters? And it's cross-faction.
Exactly.
But I feel really bad for all the other classes because they're going to just not have hunters around.
We should be allowed in their space, but
yeah, I mean, I just
right,
feel bad for them if they didn't have us.
That's what we need to request, that we be allowed to go to any classes. Not that we would, but we just, we should be able to regardless. But
Not that we would.
I don't want to visit the rogue one. That's in like the sewers, and we're hunters. We're definitely beyond and above that.
I know they did mention that the possibility of them being in the Dalaran sewers, which is nice. But that does bring. Go ahead.
I kind of hope we do get to visit other class halls because I want to tank the Warlock one. We get a bunch of hunters, explore that shit. I'm just saying.
That would be fun.
That would be cool if you could actually raid the other class halls
but
periodically.
Only if you're in a group with only your own class.
Mm-hmm.
Like class is a faction now. Like even if they're on the horde, just band up and go kill some warlocks.
Exactly. But that does sort of ask the question: where will the Hunter Hall be? And I guess since they can be almost anywhere in the game, they're not going to be
Grizzly Hills.
Yeah, you know what? It should just be like some kind of like hunting lodge in like Grizzly Hills or Stranglethorn Vale, or someplace like that. You go outside and there's beasts everywhere ready to be tamed.
Aren't all the class halls supposed to be in the Broken Isles, basically?
No, I thought almost none of them were.
Oh, well, they moved Arcarius. I'm sorry, the Death Knight one to.
Oh,
Broken
maybe
Isles,
they are then. You're
in
probably
the Dalaran
right.
sewers. Yeah, so I think the Hunter one should be in that new mountain region with the torrent and stuff because that feels very Nessingwary, and I think it should represent a ranger theme. It should have a little bit of some big game hunting theme, and I don't know.
Yeah, I just want it to not be all Nessingwary. Nessingwary can show up if he wants to, but I want some Illyria Windrunner. She's coming back. She should be our God King.
Yeah, they should have like
the Paladins are under Lights Hope Chapel, though, so it's not entirely all in the new expansion.
But they also might relocate that, so we don't know yet. What did they say where that was going to be?
Lights Hope Chapel, that's in Plaguelands.
That's in the Eastern Plaguelands, yeah.
They've been moving
Suckers.
locations, so I don't know. Like, completely moving the Death Knight starting zone over
I know
Broken
that
Isles.
the Shaman one is in the Maelstrom. Apparently.
Which might be right beside the Broken
Could be,
Isles, yeah.
Grizzly Hills it is in. I like that thought.
Yeah. I think Grizzly Hills would be that's an appropriate location. I just hope it has at least one stable master, please. Unlike our garrisons where you have 0 until you get a stables, and then you have like 50 running around and they're everywhere. It's like you can't go 2 feet without bumping into a stable master. But so I hope it has at least one stable master.
So in Grizzly Hills, I know everybody hates when they change old content because it's got, I don't know why, but they hated it in Cataclysm. But in Grizzly Hills, there's a PvP zone that they took out all the rewards for, because they didn't want you going back and doing level 80 PvP as max level content, I guess, to cap. But I think it would be great if they just cleared that out and made the Hunter's Lodge there. It's just south of where Arcturus is, in like the middle of a stream. I think that'd be perfect.
Okay, yeah, I know what you're talking about. Yeah,
put it right by Arcturus, then no one will be
Arcturus.
It's like you better tame him before the expansion comes out because you're not going to get him ever again.
No, but then you have something to do while you're camping. I mean, there's already on my Horde Hunters server. I've never been there when there weren't 3 or 4 people camping. So, at least you have something to do while you're sitting there waiting.
Yeah, it would be cool if like you went into the hunting lodge or whatever it's going to be, and like your pet just kind of like wanders around and like plays with the other hunter pets.
Oh, that'd be awesome.
They should
kind of like chase each other around and stuff like that.
That'd be really cool. Give us Eyes of the Beast back with it.
Yeah, have like a shooting range, stable master, a bar.
A bar, please. God bless. But they should separate the hall, just like how they're gonna do with the paladin one. Where I don't know if you guys heard, they're separating like the hall's gonna be like there, right? But they're gonna have different rooms for the dwarves and humans and the blood elves, so they'll be different themed. They could do so much with that with Hunter. So you can have like an Illyria Windrunner kind of themed room where it's that ranger kind of feeling. You have another room with like a bunch of trophy heads with big game and all sorts of cool stuff. But the other ideas are really cool too. We'll see what they do.
I'd like to see the way we have in our garrisons. We have like these kind of random quest givers, like the dailies or whatever, the weekly. Just somebody shows up where the ore trader or whatever. Like that could be famous hunters show up and get, so Sylvanas comes and gives us a quest one day a week, and Illyria shows up. Anybody could, I don't know. I'd be pretty excited.
Well, some of these big characters might be the champions too. Like they mentioned him at Essigamoria. I wouldn't be shocked if he was a hunter champion.
What's the champion?
They're
How does
like
that
the
work?
follower replacement.
So think of the Knights of the Round Table. So it's like just a couple, maybe 7, 10 most. They're just going to be like the followers, but instead of sending them out and waiting a couple hours for them to come back and give you stuff, you send them out and maybe they'll give you like bonus rewards in like a certain zone. You go out there, you do some quests, you get bonus loot out of it, bonus XP. I mean, there's a lot of stuff they can do with that idea. So
T Cardinal in the chat room suggested we just need a brew hall for our class hunter hall.
Yeah, we
So
do,
Dark
right?
Brew, you should be excited about that.
So the dwarf, that should be like the main room, right? And the dwarves should just be running it. It's just
Lots
be
of beer.
a big giant tavern, really. And then and the night elves will just stick in a closet somewhere.
We could take over the tavern place that's in Black Mountain, Blackrock.
Oh, that would be. That's right, Black Rock Mountain. I forgot about that. The Grim Guzzler. We could just live in there.
Yeah, they could put these things anywhere really. Like if they're not limiting it to the new continent, because you're just obviously going to get a new like Hearthstone to your class hall, right?
Yeah. And they said we wouldn't be spending that much time in there. I mean, they sort of envisioned Dalaran being sort of the main hub where you'd spend most of your time, unlike it is today, where we're just living in our garrisons, and I hardly ever visit Storm Shield other than to get my bonus roll items, every week.
The class hall seems like it's just for the champions and probably a hub for your artifact quests.
Mm-hmm.
And just a place to socialize too. It's not going to be like garrisons. You're not going to hang out in there all day. I mean, you could. It actually might be fun. Hang out
For
with
hunters at least.
Yeah, they said that's not the intention, that you mean that for us to spend all that time there, but you never know, right? We might very well just live in there. I could end up being in my garrison too, because unless they nerf that, I'm probably going to be running those missions.
They're so going to nerf that.
For the gold, just for the gold alone.
They're going to delete
Goodness,
those gold
yeah.
missions. For sure. Or else, like you said, everyone's going to feel forced to go back. It's like, I mean, you have a Hearthstone, you might as well. Like,
Exactly.
why would you throw away like 1,000 gold a day?
Yeah, it'd be pointless to not take advantage of that. So I'll be curious to see. I wouldn't be surprised if they nerf it. If, like I said, either remove them. I mean, you're not going to be earning the garrison resources as much. I mean, the same way. That'll be a little bit slower, but still, it's you'll still be playing the garrisons, and I don't think they want us. We know they don't want us doing that at all. So, yeah, be on the lookout for that to go bye.
at least we'll have like other hunters there, and it'll be fun.
Mm-hmm.
I wouldn't
Sure.
mind AFKing in that. Like,
Yeah.
Sure to limit it to probably. I wonder how many like players will limit it to, because there will obviously be multiple instances of it. If they're going to allow like 50 hunters in there, like what the number's going to be or how big it is. Or if you can, I guess if you form a group, you can have your own group of hunters in there if you wanted.
your own hunting party.
Yep.
Well, should we go on to listener Q&A here? We do have a few questions this week from the chat room.
We covered some of them, but
Yeah.
let's hit
We'll
them
go
up.
through. All right. Delirium, why don't you take the first one?
Hey, artifacts are the only weapons we get in Legion, aren't they? Was asked by you Giggly. You
Ugly? I don't know.
I'm sorry, I can't say your name. So they did say in the Q&A at the when you first get there, you might get some weapons, like catch-up weapons from the first quests. But after that, after you progress in the questing through the artifact zone, it sounds like we're not getting any more. We're just getting artifact upgrades.
Right. I mean, the artifacts are meant to be like the weapon that we carry throughout this entire expansion, and that's why they're trying to give us cool things like the Ashbringer and so forth. Very sort of iconic weapons. And what was the other one? The Doom Hammer was another one that was.
Yeah.
They're going to be.
And by the way, if you don't like say you're Beastmaster and you don't like the gun, you can transmog it.
Yeah.
But you can't transmog it to the bow artifact. Only to regular weapons.
Correct. And, some of the other transmog rules apply to, such as legendaries and things like that you can't transmog into. Although
you know what, though? Maybe it almost makes me wonder if they'll lift the legendary restriction. They've kind of hinted at that in the past.
They have. I thought I saw somewhere from one of these interviews that they had said possibly for some of the harder to obtain items, like the staff you got that from Firelands, for example, something that involved a long quest chain, which was much harder to obtain. But the things that they said were just normal drops that you could farm, they were still reluctant on, which of course is the hunter bow, right? So the Thoderal. So I guess nothing's finalized, of course, but that was the only thing I had sort of read, that they had sort of spoken on it recently about that. Let's see. Munchie Fest asks, "Are rotations a joke now?" I don't know. I don't think they're a joke now. I mean, they're not hard to learn, right? I mean,
they're simplified so you can focus on the increasingly difficult boss mechanics.
Mm-hmm.
Marksmanship with the 4-set is kind of jokish. I mean, there's just not much complexity to it at all.
Nope.
But yeah. Yeah, BM is very simple. Most people use an add-on to tell them exactly when to use focusing, or what do you call it?
Focus fire.
Focus fire. So,
they're all simple, basically. It's just but the bosses are more difficult. They wanted to simplify rotations and make you focus on the bosses. So I don't know what they're going to do if we talked about if they're going to add another talent tier, or if you're going to get like a level 110 ability, or if they're just going to redistribute everything over an extra 10 levels so they don't make it any more complex. Don't really know.
And T Cardinal wants to know, can we undelete our pole arms from 7 years ago? That's a good.
How far back does the item restoration go?
Not very far, like 90 days.
Okay. Yeah,
I've already started farming a couple of the pole arms.
Have you? Yeah.
Like the one.
Do we know for sure that this is a pole arm, or could it be a different weapon type?
The only weapon type they announced were glaives. I'm pretty sure it's just going to be a little pole arm.
Yeah, pole arm or staff, same thing. They can both be transmogged.
Yep.
Yeah, but the one from Malagos 10-man and from Shadow Labs, those two, trying to get those again.
And
I guess
use
I
the
better
Mogget thing to find other transmogs if you don't like what you're gonna get. MOGIT Mogget.
But yeah, most of those raids now you can go back and just solo pretty easily. So it's just a matter of RNG for the drop and hoping you get it, and hoping you still have the bag space actually to.
Well, that's the other thing we didn't mention. They confirmed the new transmog system.
Thank goodness.
Did they give details on that at all, or do we know what it's going to?
They said basically you can take an item, like save its appearance, and then get rid of the item.
Oh, that'll be nice. That's huge.
It's literally going to free up like 300 slots or more in my bank and bags.
Right. So I wonder what becomes of the void storage then. I mean, can you still keep the item if you want?
I'm not sure if you have to right-click this item to destroy it and make it into the wardrobe or whatever it's going to be called.
Right. I mean, it's not a huge deal, but I mean that's a nice feature. But they also have those time walking dungeons, and sometimes it's fun to swap on that old, actually wear the old tier gear with the old tier bonuses and things like that, and make use of that. So, and same with some of the weapons and things. So while having that visual appearance is cool, there's actually they've now got a system in the game where there's some practical uses for that old gear where you might want to actually have the item itself. I don't know. So maybe it'll be an option.
Yeah, hopefully it's just an option, but it's gonna be nice.
But that'll be nice. That's a ton of void storage too. That would free up that. Yeah, that's big.
So, T Cardinal also asks, what happens if we switch specs? Will the artifact look change? Will we have to get it twice? And can we make one spec's artifact look like another? You have to do each individual quest for each spec to get the different artifacts. And no, you can't make one artifact look like another.
Yeah, that's what it sounded like from the Q&A this morning and the presentation, but I'm sure none of that's final. Hopefully they'll do something better for pure DPS classes.
Yeah, because we shouldn't be forced to be tied down to one spec at all for pure DPS, and it would just make lives unbearable for raiding or doing other stuff.
Well, it sounds like it's not going to be hard to get it for each spec, though. It's like you're going to get it literally like the first day of the expansion.
Right.
So, like, the hard part will be the upgrades and whether those can carry over to your other spec. But as for getting all 3 artifacts, I don't think it's going to be a big deal.
I know, and it's kind of fun too. It's kind of nice that they're, just gives you something to do. That's hopefully it's a different quest, chain for each type of artifact. Interacting with different NPCs versus, well, it's the same one, and you just choose which the reward is given to you based on the spec you're in when you're completing it. But no, it would make sense that it would be kind of 3 separate chains that you would run. So there's a little bit of play value there.
Finally, Munchie Fest asks, what's your overall thoughts about Marks losing its pets? And I am annoyed. I don't like it at all. I'm going to be a curmudgeon here and say it's bad, evil even.
I don't mind.
I'm kind of used to it now because I've been playing Marks with the Lone Wolf talent, so I've gotten used to, I guess, that spec, or at least playing a hunter somewhat part of the time without a pet.
Traitor.
I'm not saying I don't know. I mean, in Beast Mastery is still an option, I guess, but I understand you don't want to play BM, so it's I don't know, tough choices this time around. But
I mean, it's not that I don't like BM. I enjoy BM. It is the 3rd best spec in the whole game, right after SV and Marks. But I don't like that there's only one hunter spec. Mark, I don't mind Lone Wolf as a talent because it's kind of, I think people are really overestimating how powerful it is right now. For pure single target DPS, focusing shots still a little better. Sniper training has its, or not sniper training, what's it called? Lone Wolf has its benefits for priority targets, of course, which I think is why most people use it. But it's really a choice right now. And depending on how your raid works, you can go kind of whichever direction. And it's fun little novelty. My pet's gone. I do a little more damage, but as mainline, it's annoying to me.
I don't know. Like, with how a lot of the raids function, though, unfortunately, just Lone Wolf has been predominantly better with a lot of movement. Priority targets, like you said, there's been way too many fights where, and that's unfortunately why Marksman's dominating compared to the other 2 specs, is just because of how the fights are set up, really.
Yeah, exactly. BM is really good right now. It's doing tons of damage. It just doesn't have that priority kind of base that Marks has.
Right.
And I was talking about this with my guild earlier. There's no other spec in the whole game that like really rewards you for switching targets quickly, is there? I feel like Marks is the only one. So it's kind of in a great place right now. just won't have his pets. So, meh.
I think some other classes can do okay-ish with that, but not any range really. Maybe Warlocks can kind of do that swapping pretty well, but a Marksman Hunter will win.
Yeah, and dot classes, they get some benefit from swapping quickly and getting their dots up on everybody, but not like our careful aim buff. Like there's nothing really competing with it.
Yeah, as for marks, I don't know. It's kind of. I feel like all the hunter specs should have a pet, but at the same time, I can see marksmanship's pet right now is kind of. It's almost just like a decoration, you know. It doesn't seem like
It's a really great decoration, though.
It is. That's the only. I want the pet. I'm just saying that's the only thing I can see, you know. So for survival, I hope they kind of, even though it's not the pet spec, I hope they have a little more pet interaction with it.
Yeah, that's a good idea. That'd be a good balance, too.
So it's not just the decoration.
Or maybe even a glyph that makes the pet purely decoration. It can't do any actual DPS. It just shows up. That would satisfy me.
It's this creepy little animal that just follows you around, right? You don't know why it's there.
Oh, that's actually like a decent idea. Like a minor glyph. It's like your pet can hang out with you, but he doesn't do anything.
Yeah.
He doesn't even have to attack. If he just sits beside me and looks cool, I'm good.
I don't know. I mean, I kind of like what they're trying to do here, at least so far on paper, in making the three specs unique and distinct from one another. And, you know, I think I'll reserve any kind of true judgment until I get my hands on it and start playing survival and give that a try and, you know, play marksmanship and beast mastery again and kind of see them side by side in action. Although I will say this. I can live with, you know, marksmanship not having a pet, but survival is going to be the bigger leap. That's going to be the tougher sell for me in the melee ability.
Yeah, I don't know. Both are pretty tough sells for me. I don't know. I feel like just like inevitably gonna go to beast mastery.
Yeah, here's hoping they balance it well. Like, you know, we've kind of been playing this game where you take a turn every tier or expansion of who's the best and who's the worst, and everybody switches to that spec. But when it's a completely different game with the different spec, you know, switching to survival in particular, I guess, like that's kind of unreasonable to ask a ranged player to switch to melee just because it's a little more DPS. So they really need to give up on taking turns with DPS and just balance them.
Not only that, the artifacts. It's like, in
that
7.1, it's like beast mastery was great, but now we decided to make survival awesome. Too bad your survival artifact has no power at all.
Right, it's terrible. That is going to be an issue. Yeah. But I mean, these are his biggest changes. You know, these are the biggest changes being made to the hunter class since they removed mana and gave us focus. And I think the impact of this will probably be even larger than focus was.
Yeah. Hopefully it doesn't suck.
Yes.
I'm excited, but there's a possibility they could just go off the map with that.
It is. I mean, you know, that you could just alienate, you know, hunters from wanting to play two of their three specs entirely, right? They could just hate marksmanship and they could hate survival and just feel like they're roped into beast mastery in order to feel like a hunter in World of Warcraft.
Yeah, I mean, that's not unprecedented. DPS paladins don't have a choice what spec they play.
No.
It's not, or DPS priests don't have a choice what spec they play. So it's not like it's totally unreasonable, but for a pure DPS class, it's just weird. I don't know. I'll get over it, I'm sure, but at the moment I'm annoyed. Hopefully survival is just so awesome with its new grappling hook ability that I instituted. I'll just not care at all.
You know that's going to come, right? I'll be shocked if they don't give us that.
So cool! Oh my gosh, I would love a grappling hook mechanic.
Yeah, I want an AOE grappling hook.
Pull you all around like Link's Rush, but
yeah, exactly.
Oh,
yes.
That would actually. What's wrong with that idea?
Yeah.
For survival though, like a melee kind of ability, it just dashes around and gives things bleeds.
Yep.
Yeah, Link's Rush for survival hunters. Yeah.
Why
Blizzard,
don't they just let
listening.
us design the specs? Come on.
Yeah, why don't we just work for
Hand it
Blizzard?
over.
Just do their job. For Hunter, though. Not for other classes. Just for Hunter.
Right, there won't be other classes
There
anymore.
won't be. The other classes are just there for show. Frostheim taught us that a long time ago.
Exactly. They're just the support classes. That's why we get allowed to go to their class order halls, and they're
can't
not
go,
allowed in ours.
so. Yeah. We'll get to harass their class halls. That'd be funny, though, if we could just, like, camp other halls and just, you're not a hunter. You can't come to ours. You are a filthy warlock.
If I remember right, Frostheim did get a restraining order, so he couldn't go to the healing hall anymore from Don Moore.
Yeah, he may have been banned from there. I don't recall. But why would you want to go to the healing hall anyway? So he's like, I actually don't want to visit the Paladin order hall, but just want to be able to go in there if I, just know that I could. But I actually will never go there.
I want to
Yeah,
visit.
I can't imagine wanting to go to Paladins. But a few
just-
of them might be interesting. Just to see what they're doing.
I want to see the warlock one, though.
I assume the druids will be under a tree somewhere. I like trees
tree.
just as much as the next guy.
Should be the world tree or something.
Druids already have a class hall, right? What's it called? Like they have a whole zone that's just for
Moonglade.
druids.
Moonglade.
Yeah. So I guess that's already solved.
I guess, yeah, that's right.
Class.
That's what they're gonna do. They already have the ability to just travel there anytime they want. So that's probably where their hall is gonna be. It's just Moonglade.
And we
Nobody
go to
really
that
hangs out there though, right?
No.
I guess if they're quest or whatever, but
Oh, man.
well,
Want to harass me some classes.
Well, unless there are any other topics you guys want to bring up, I think we've pretty much covered everything for this week.
We covered the basics anyway.
Yeah. Hopefully we'll get some more information soon here. They start, giving us some more than what we've got. Although it could be a little bit a while. It could be a little while now before we get anything too new.
And the only
and
major
get
thing
to-
we didn't mention was the PvP changes.
yeah, we really don't know enough yet to see what that's going to be like.
Other than they're trying to separate PvE and PvP now.
Finally.
It's kind of big though. Like you get entirely different talents in PvP now.
Mm-hmm.
And abilities for. Well, yeah, talents, whatever. You know what I mean. And you get to don't you get to unlock other stuff with the honor system? Like different. Yeah.
And they basically said there's not going to be PvP gear either. So, but you
Which
can
is
still.
just awesome. I love that change.
So someone who only wants to PvP, I guess his gear just not going to be a factor anymore. So it's okay if they're using low level gear. Or what?
That's what it sounded like.
Yeah.
I'm not sure if there will be a limit to that, but
Yeah, otherwise you'd be forced to raid to get your gear,
Pretty
which
much, yeah.
wouldn't be very fair to the people that just want to jump in PvP.
yeah, I cannot imagine the PvP community being happy about that.
No. But, the nice thing is now we won't have to worry about, things like Stampede, right? And our abilities that vital for PvE getting, nerfed because they're just ridiculously overpowered in PvP. So this hopefully will eliminate that conflict, which has plagued the game forever. The number of ability changes that were impacted PvE because they were, harming PvP. That will now be eliminated, hopefully.
It sounds like you're also going to be able to get a unique artifact look only from PvP. You have to get your prestige levels like Call of Duty style. Get that.
I actually really like that. I think that'll be a cool change for artifacts, like the same weapon but having different powers for PvP and for PvE.
Well, honestly, no PvP gear it's probably make me PvP more. To be honest.
Yeah.
Yeah, so I might be inclined to hop into that a little bit more too, and try it out, just for
the
that
honor
reason.
system.
And so
yeah.
this season, so I was gone for about 2 weeks, 2 lockouts worth of content in July, and so I've been 2 weeks late with all of my PvP gear. Like everybody else was conquest capping and doing BGs for those 2 weeks. So I've just been behind, and it's been kind of miserable. It would be great if I were still allowed to PvP, even though I missed 2 weeks.
No, the prestige system looks pretty well done. Like the whole idea of restarting all over and going back up and getting some pretty cool stuff out of it just for doing it. The portraits was a good idea.
And the best news of all was Ashran's being moved to the Broken Isles.
Splash Ram?
Huh. I wonder what they'll change on that. It's pretty well recognized as a big failure at this point, yeah?
Yeah.
I haven't set foot in it. I mean, and it sounded kind of like a neat thing when it was announced. And, I think I tried it once or twice in the beta. You're going to give you all those crazy abilities and things like that. But it never really, it just panned. It never panned. It didn't pan
on
out.
The beta, on the beta, it was really fun. And I remember sending in feedback and getting a response back from Halinka, I think. And it was a great time. I loved it in the beta. And then doing it on live, everybody was just focused on getting gear. And it was miserable because it was always like, people in just PvE gear and a few people that were fully in Conquest gear.
Right.
And so it was just miserable. And a lot of people who, like on the beta, I think everybody in there at least was decent at PvP. Some people were certainly much, much better than others. But everybody knew a little bit what they were doing, so it was always fun to go in there. You had a challenge. It was never just mauling over everybody in sight.
Well, it was just the beta thing was just you were just there to have fun, basically.
Exactly.
Like, here's all your gear.
And so it was fun. And so now maybe it'll be like that since if there's no more PvP gear to gain, maybe it'll be fun again. I don't know.
Yeah, because now like you still earn points and stuff, but it's from what I understand, it's all cosmetic stuff. So it's not like you feel like you're gimping yourself by going and having fun in a zone like that, even though if it might be like less points per hour.
Right.
It's kind of like, I get my new weapon color a week later. Who cares?
Yeah. So I think the only other really, the PvP changes is they said they were segregating talents or abilities that were PvP only. And I think they showed like a Death Knight ability that they said, Death Knights only use in PvP. But I can't think of any ability that we only use in PvP. I think we kind of talked about that in our chat earlier. I have no idea what you would consider a PvP only ability. There's not really even any talents now. There used to be, but somebody says flare. I didn't see who, but I definitely use flare in HFC right now.
Yeah, we use it for Hellfire
Hellfire.
Citadel for those stealth assassins to try and root them out.
Not to mention the Fell Wolf.
Right, yeah, the
Right.
Fell Wolf. That's a big one.
Well, that's almost like a PvP encounter. That thing.
They won't take out Flare. I don't think they'll make that a talent.
And that was the thing. They said they wouldn't be usable in PvE. I don't know how they'll restrict that exactly, but
They're just not going to be usable outside of queued zones. That's it. Like,
right.
they're-
But there's world PvP too.
doesn't matter. World PvP hasn't really been a thing since vanilla, and I think it's just trying to accept that.
Yeah.
I miss World PvP. It's fun. Just not really something with how some servers are balanced and other things. It's probably just not going to make a comeback, except in like queued scenarios.
Yeah, I guess the best I can say is I'm concerned they're going to take away utilities that I use a lot. As they kind of, threaten to take away some every expansion. We
I
lost.
certainly hope not, because if they already had the big ability squish, I don't think they need to do another one.
I agree. I
So-
mean, unless they're going to give us some new abilities, unless they want to try and go down that route as we get to level 110, they might want to get rid of one or two things. But but like I said, you said the ability pruning has happened, so I don't think they really need to cut too much out of these specs. other than survival getting completely gutted and reworked at this point.
Yeah, survival is getting gutted completely. Guaranteed.
Yeah.
It's gonna be so unrecognizable, I bet.
Well,
But
they
that's
gotta
gonna be
make
fun.
new abilities for almost everything.
Yeah.
Yeah, our talent tree is gonna get completely gutted. Because there's a lot of PvP-ish talents, like, that I could see them moving out easily. And, of course, Lone Wolf and Adaption being baseline, they might make Blink Strikes go away. I don't know, they could do a lot.
Yeah, Blink Strike, something like that would have to go or have an alternate version because one of the specs doesn't even have the option of a pet. So
Yeah, that'll be interesting how they work
Stampede
with
as
it.
well. Think about Stampede. Like no, like does that mean like marksmanship? Obviously, I don't think they're going to be able to use a talent like that. Who knows? Maybe they can, but like
Yeah, that'd be
Dire
weird.
Beast and yeah.
It's gonna
I
randomly
guess that
summon
would kind of
pets.
make up for some of the hurt of losing your pet.
Mhm.
No, I think we really got to push for that minor glyph that turns your pet into a non-combat pet, just for marksmanship.
Yeah.
Somebody tweet Muffinus, see if he can get it done.
Yeah, I mean, but if you look at the current talents, I mean, for marksmanship, it just leaves Iron Hawk for the most part. You still get Thrill of the Hunt and Steady Focus, but then it's just a Murder of Crows would be the only thing that seems like would work at that level 75. And then the others would be okay. And then whatever they come up with at level 100. But so it's mostly Stampede they would lose out on, which is not a small thing. That's not a small loss. And then
Dire
Spirit
Beast,
Bond.
yeah.
And Spirit Bond, which doesn't work with Lone Wolf as it is now.
Right.
Yeah, it's just kind of guessing at this point because I think they're just going to change everything.
I mean, at least for hunters, it's almost getting to the point where, do we really need these talents? I mean, because it doesn't feel like there's that many choices, and would it just be better of just, giving certain specs these abilities? I don't know.
Yeah, I feel like that's probably true if you only raid, there's not a lot of choices. But if you also, like, once you start doing challenge mode dungeons or even mythic dungeons to some extent,
Mm-hmm.
there, it starts being where you need your full toolkit to get it done. Like, that's why hunters are so valuable, is because we have such a huge toolkit for challenge modes to just get, take care of business. And so even things that might seem pretty PvP oriented, like Flare or Narrow Escape, can all of a sudden have this extra benefit for doing challenge modes or mythic dungeons, or I don't know what else. Brawler's Guild, even.
Well, I don't know. I think, time will tell, right? So, but I mean, we've got the expansion. We know kind of idea of what changes are coming. So we'll just see in the coming weeks here what actually transpires. But, it's nice to know that we are getting another expansion, and that, we should be able to get our hands on it and do some beta testing, maybe in the next couple of months, hopefully by BlizzCon. So we won't have to wait too long before we start seeing all these things in action.
One thing I got to say is I feel pretty bad for people who are diehard survival hunters right now because
Mhm.
they're going to be playing the specs still, like today, and they're just going to be firing off their explosive shots and back of their head. They're like, this is just going to go away in a few months. Like, why am I even bothering?
A lot of upset survival hunters, though. Like, I don't know if you've seen the Facebook group at all, but a lot of people are just debating. Doing exactly what you said, though. Benda.
Survival is a pretty strong support spec in PvP right now. It's a lot of hunters at the top end seem to be playing to it since those buffs that came out a few weeks ago. So it's been, it's used in PvP, I think, a lot more than PvE right now. But I guess that's what happens. Change.
I guess Time to break out your survival spec, break out your fraps, and start taking those videos.
Gotta have some kind
Never
of like
forget.
goodbye to the spec.
Exactly.
Oh, day before like the expansion goes out, we'll just have like a giant survival party.
Yeah. It's gonna be weird. Well, it would be survival hunters and marksmanship hunters with pets.
Right. We'll be writing that down. We'll have the big survival farewell episode here. Be whenever the final show, whenever we know it's going to go away for sure. Whatever the show that precedes it. Yeah, we'll get on here. And we'll reminisce about survival, the good old days, the bad days, everything.
I think I remember when MOP was about to be finished, we had like a giant party just reminiscing all the abilities we're about to lose.
Yeah, you should do another one of those.
Click the buttons you want.
Farewell. All right. Well, on that note, guys, you have been listening to episode 223 of the Hunting Party Podcast. I'm Darkbrew from thebrewhall.com and the Brew Hall on Twitter.
I'm Delirium from thrillofthewild.com and at Delirium Hunts on Twitter.
I'm Bendak from Eyes of the Beast, Blizzard Watch, and Bendak Wow on Twitter.
Oh, and I'm Artemis Hal from the Warcraft Hunter Union and at Artemis Hal on Twitter.
Check us out on iTunes, YouTube, Stitcher, or at our RSS feed to your reader. We'll have all these links available on our show notes.
If you have a question or a topic you would like to announce on the show, email us at huntingpartypodcast@gmail.com or send us a tweet at huntingpartypod so we can ignore it and make you wake up early for an hour-long promo for things you already know.
Stay thirsty, my friends, and remember to drink your dark brew lager.
Siempre está la emoción de lo salvaje.
Keep your eyes on the beast.
And don't forget to pay your dues.
Dues, pay them, adaption.
I am not expensive.
That's just the cost of being an awesome sauce. I'm a dues payer, a boss slayer. I rock out with my lockout Viper to cheetah to dragon hawk. No time to waste, cause I can jump shot. BM, MM, and SB. I can rock out any tree. Never worried about my threat, cause I've got FD and misdirect. Catching loose mobs in my traps. I never miss, cause I am hit capped. Cause I'm the hunter, not the marked. I'm the fighter, not the spark. I'm the kiter, not the kite. I'll top the meters every fight. Rated handicap, dealing death. Just me, my gun, and my trusty bed. Now let's begin with Illidan, Osirian, and Gil'jadan, Magdamar, Asgalor, Gruul, Cthulhu, and Razorgore, Onyxia to Ragnaros. Which one have we killed the most? Kel'Thuzad to Malygos. We even killed the Kama's ghost. Feels like we're getting close, all that running has a ghost. Yogg-Saron, Thorian, Sartharian, Magthuridon, Sapuron, Luciferon to Sulfuron, Archimon, Amalon, Coromon, and Algalon. The faction champions, the death toll rolling on and on. Garvale, Executus, Chromagus, and Jaraxus. No war will kill this. We won't stop and kill our boss.
All my lead skills, rocking off the coast.